The night was quiet, the kind of silence that makes you hear your own heartbeat, and at the massive gates of Hamilton International University sat a man most people never noticed. His name was Raghav, the night watchman, a figure in a faded brown sweater and worn shoes, sitting on a small stool under the dim glow of a flickering street lamp. To passing students, he was invisible, just the man who checked IDs, nodded when they came in late, or opened the gate when the cars rolled up. No one gave him much thought. After all, what could a watchman know about the world of science, technology, and philosophy that thrived behind those walls? But hidden in those tired eyes was a brilliance beyond comprehension, a mind that worked at a level almost no one could believe. His IQ, once measured in an unconventional test during his youth, had ranked beyond 900, an almost mythical number that people dismissed as a joke or an error. How could a man with such intelligence end up guarding a gate at midnight? The answer was life, with its cruel turns and quiet injustices, but Raghav never complained. He had once dreamed of higher education, but poverty had crushed that path. Instead, he chose to earn with honesty, protecting the very halls of knowledge he once wished to enter. Yet genius, like fire, cannot be hidden forever. One evening, a young student named Michael trudged past Raghav, frustration etched on his face. He carried a stack of physics notes, muttering equations under his breath, shaking his head in defeat. "I can't do this," Michael whispered to himself, but Raghav's sharp ears caught the words. In a calm, almost fatherly voice, he spoke, "You're starting from the wrong side of the equation, son. Try isolating the variable first." Michael froze, turned, and blinked at the guard. "What did you say?" he asked, half annoyed, half confused. Raghav only pointed gently at the papers in Michael's hands. "Your problem isn't the math. It's the way you're looking at it." Michael scoffed and walked away, but that night curiosity pulled him back to the problem. He followed Raghav's suggestion, and to his shock, the equation unraveled perfectly. The next day, Michael approached him again, this time with awe. "How did you know that?" Raghav simply smiled. "Knowledge doesn't belong to one place, son. It belongs to everyone who seeks it." Word began to spread in whispers. A struggling economics student found Raghav sketching supply-demand curves in the dust with a stick, explaining concepts better than her professor. A group of computer science majors brought their laptops to him after hearing rumors, and he pointed out the tiny flaw in their code that had cost them weeks. At first, students laughed, who would take lessons from a watchman? But slowly, laughter turned to amazement, and amazement into respect. Some nights, a quiet circle of students would gather at the gate not for protection, but for wisdom. Yet, the heart of Raghav's story wasn't just his knowledge. One winter night, while the campus lay asleep, he noticed a homeless man curled up by the roadside, shivering violently. Without hesitation, Raghav removed his own sweater, the only one he had, and wrapped it around the stranger. The man looked at him with watery eyes and whispered, "Why give this to me? You need it more." Raghav only shook his head. "I can endure the cold, my friend. But you may not." No one saw it, no cameras recorded it, but in that quiet act of compassion lived a genius far greater than numbers or logic, the genius of humanity. Eventually, word reached Professor Williams, head of the physics department, a man feared for his arrogance and pride. He refused to believe in the myth of the genius watchman. One evening, he strode to the gate carrying a notebook filled with problems so complex that even graduate students struggled with them. Dropping it before Raghav, he said sharply, "If you're as brilliant as they say, solve these." Raghav glanced at the pages, then at the professor. Calmly, without pen or calculator, he began to explain each step, weaving solutions like stories, turning abstract numbers into living logic. In minutes, the notebook was filled with flawless answers. The professor's face burned with disbelief. "Who taught you this?" he demanded. Raghav's eyes softened. "Life, nights under broken streetlights, books I borrowed but could never own, puzzles that kept me alive when hunger tried to break me." Knowledge is free, Professor. It is not the property of the rich. For the first time, the arrogant professor had no reply. But life tested Raghav in ways greater than academic puzzles. One stormy night, lightning struck a transformer near the dormitory, and the building caught fire. Panic erupted, students screamed, alarms blared, smoke filled the hallways. Raghav didn't hesitate. While others froze, he rushed inside. He had studied the building's blueprints years ago out of curiosity, memorizing every hallway and exit. Guiding students through smoke-filled corridors, calculating escape routes in seconds, he led dozens to safety. When a staircase collapsed, he tied together bed sheets to create a makeshift rope, helping frightened students climb down. His mind worked faster than the fire, faster than fear itself. By dawn, every student was safe, but Raghav was carried out unconscious, his lungs filled with smoke. For days, he lay in the hospital, and the entire university waited, praying. When he finally awoke, frail but smiling, the campus erupted in tears and applause. For the first time, the world truly saw him. Reporters arrived, articles were written, and suddenly, the watchman at the gate was celebrated as a hero. Universities offered him honorary degrees, professors bowed in respect, and students, once blind to his presence, treated him like family. But when asked what he wanted as a reward, his answer silenced the room. "Build a library," he said softly, "not for me, but for the children of the poor. Let no child hunger for knowledge the way I once did." His wish was granted. A year later, a new library stood tall, open to everyone, free of cost, filled with books and computers. At its entrance was a small plaque that read, "In honor of Raghav, the watchman whose mind and heart were greater than any wall could contain." And every evening, Raghav would sit quietly outside the library, watching children read under the same kind of light that had once guided him, his eyes glowing with contentment. His story spread across the world, touching hearts in distant places, not because he was a genius with a 900 IQ, but because he showed that true intelligence is not just solving equations, it is the courage to give, the compassion to help, and the humility to remain human in a world obsessed with titles. The watchman who had been invisible became unforgettable, proving that greatness doesn't wear a uniform or sit on a throne. Sometimes, greatness sits quietly at a gate, watching over the world, waiting for someone to notice. And Sir Raghav's story reminds us all that the measure of a man is not in his wealth, job title, or social standing, but in the light he leaves behind in others. A library, a sweater shared on a cold night, a life saved from fire, these were his equations, his masterpieces, his legacy. And even today, if you walk past that library at sunset, you might see an old man smiling at the children and whispering to himself, "Knowledge is sunlight. It must shine on everyone."